Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today we're diving headfirst into a topic that feels like it's pulled straight from a sci-fi novel, but is in fact a very real, very urgent concern for our digital lives right now. Forget those distant, theoretical worries about the future. We're talking about a ticking quantum clock that's already impacting the security of your most sensitive data.
That's precisely it. The fundamental cryptography that safeguards everything from your daily banking transactions to critical national secrets, well, it's poised on the brink of an unprecedented paradigm shift.
A huge shift.
And it's not merely about waiting for some nebulous Q day in the future. What's truly compelling here is how one brilliant mind, Dr. Mosca, provided us with a clear, actionable framework to truly grasp this urgency.
Yeah.
Transforming it from a theoretical problem into a concrete, time-bound challenge.
And this is where Mosca's brilliance truly shines. He didn't just outline a future problem, he created a mirror for every organization, forcing them to see how their own data's inherent lifespan creates an immediate, unavoidable strategic imperative today.
Exactly. The sort of call to action based on your specific data.
So whether you're managing critical infrastructure, developing cutting-edge technology, or simply curious about how your digital world stays safe, you've likely caught whispers of quantum computing's potential. But the big question for many is, how do you actually measure and then mitigate that risk today?
Right. How do you make it tangible?
That's our mission for this deep dive. To unpack Mosca's theorem, a powerful inequality often expressed as X plus YZ, and explore what it means for your digital security right now as of September 2025.
This framework moves us far beyond mere theory. It's a pragmatic tool designed for real-world risk assessment, and it's capable of illuminating potential vulnerabilities that, honestly, many organizations might not even realize they possess.
Things hidden under the surface.
Oh, exactly. As we move through this discussion, we'll dissect each variable of the theorem, examine the innovative solutions emerging, and lay out a clear roadmap for quantum readiness that can genuinely transform a potential crisis into a catalyst for a more resilient, secure future.
Okay, let's do it. Let's begin by pulling back the curtain on the actual foundation under threat. Because it isn't some obscure corner of the internet we're discussing, it's the very bedrock of our global digital infrastructure.
Indeed. Our entire digital ecosystem, spanning everything from the secure online purchase you made this morning to the most classified communications between governments, fundamentally relies on what we call public key cryptography.
Or asymmetric encryption.
Right, asymmetric encryption. This is the invisible guardian ensuring secure key exchange, authenticating digital signatures, and verifying identity, essentially. That crucial digital handshake that validates who you are and confirms your data hasn't been tampered with.
That handshake is everywhere.
It is. And what's remarkable here is that its security isn't based on physical locks, but on complex mathematical problems that are, for all intents and purposes, utterly intractable for even those powerful classical supercomputers available today.
So we're talking about foundational algorithms like RSA and elliptic curve cryptography, or ECC. These aren't just abstract concepts. They're the silent heroes working behind the scenes to protect nearly every digital interaction you have. But if they're so robust, what makes them particularly vulnerable to this looming quantum storm? What's their underlying mechanism, and why is it also their point of fragility?
Well, their strength, paradoxically, lies in what we refer to as hard problems. For RSA, the security hinges on the extraordinary difficulty of interfactorization.
Breaking down large numbers into primes.
Exactly, taking an incredibly large number and efficiently finding its prime factors. For ECC, the challenge is the elliptic curve discrete logarithm problem. These are mathematical puzzles that would take a classical supercomputer astronomically long time to solve.
Like heat death of the universe time.
Pretty much, yeah. Rendering them practically unbreakable within any realistic time frame. To put it another way, imagine trying to find a specific grain of sand, perfectly unique, scattered among all the beaches in the world.
Right. Theoretically possible, perhaps.
Well, practically impossible, yes.
And this isn't just theory floating in the ether, is it? Can you give us some concrete, real-life examples of where this public key cryptography is at work, quietly securing our world every single day?
Oh, it truly is pervasive. Every time you see HTTPS in your browser's address bar, that signifies Transport Layer Security, or TLS, actively securing your web browsing session.
The little padlock icon.
That's the one. When you securely access your company's network from a remote location, you're likely using a virtual private network, or VPN tunnel, which employs these very same cryptographic principles.
Okay.
And consider the entire global banking system, which processes millions of transactions daily. It relies on these foundational algorithms to ensure your money is safe, your identity is verified, and every transaction is legitimate and immutable.
So, if you're listening, take a moment to imagine your most sensitive online interactions, your financial dealings, your private healthcare records, your personal messages, even the security of your smart home devices. All of it is underpinned by these intricate mathematical foundations.
It really is.
That's the scope of what we're discussing and what's potentially at stake. Now, you've mentioned that quantum computers could effectively solve these hard problems. How do they achieve this, and what are the specific quantum algorithms that pose this significant threat?
Okay, so the primary threat emanates from two specific quantum algorithms, Shor's and Grover's. Shor's algorithm is the one that truly alters the landscape. It possesses the capability to solve both integer factorization and discrete logarithm problems at what our sources describe as explosive speed,
Explosive speed, wow.
which means it can effectively dismantle RSA and ECC, the very public key systems we just highlighted,
The foundation.
the foundations. And a key insight here is that Shor's isn't merely about making classical computations faster. It employs a fundamentally different computational approach based on quantum mechanics.
Got it. So it's not just a faster horse, it's a spaceship.
Exactly. A completely different paradigm. This means that simply increasing the key size, which is a common and often effective mitigation in classical cryptography, is insufficient to protect against Shor's algorithm. It presents an existential threat to our current public key infrastructure, our PKI.
So Shor's algorithm sounds like a fundamental, potentially catastrophic threat to asymmetric encryption. How does Grover's algorithm compare in its potential impact, and what are the key differences our listeners should be aware of?
That's a crucial distinction to make. Grover's algorithm is far less severe in its impact. While it does accelerate brute force attacks on symmetric ciphers, such as AES.
Symmetric being things like AES, where you use the same key to encrypt and decrypt.
Correct. Grover's only provides a quadratic speedup. This effectively halves the security strength of a symmetric key. So for instance, a 128-bit symmetric key, like AES 128, would see its effective security reduced to about 64 bits against a quantum attacker using Grover's.
Which, 64 bits isn't considered strong enough anymore, is it?
No, definitely not for long-term security. However, the mitigation here is straightforward and entirely manageable. You simply double the key size.
Okay.
By migrating from, say, 128-bit AES to a 256-bit AES key, that quantum threat is effectively pushed back, restoring a robust 128-bit equivalent security level, which is considered secure for the foreseeable future.
That distinction is vital for anyone grappling with this topic. It tells us that the quantum threat isn't uniform across all cryptographic systems.
Not at all.
There's an existential threat to public key infrastructure from Shor's, which will necessitate entirely new mathematical algorithm.
Right. A whole new way of doing things.
Contrasting sharply with the manageable threat to symmetric ciphers, which can be mitigated simply by increasing key sizes. This differentiation is absolutely critical for understanding the current direction and focus of post-quantum cryptography, or PQC, standardization efforts. So the implications aren't just for some distant Q-day, are they? This problem is already very much alive today, particularly because of how data is collected and stored.
You're exactly right. That brings us directly to a crucial concept.
Yeah.
The Store Now, Decrypt Later, or SNDL, attack sometimes called Harvest Now, Decrypt Later.
SNDL or HNDL, yeah.
This isn't a hypothetical future concern. Threat actors, particularly sophisticated nation-states and well-resourced criminal groups, are not waiting. They are actively collecting and archiving vast quantities of sensitive encrypted data today.
Just sucking it all up.
Exactly. Their strategy is based on the full knowledge that once powerful quantum computers become available, they will be able to retroactively decrypt all of this harvested information.
So they're essentially playing a very long, very patient game. They're gathering the digital equivalent of treasure chests now, fully confident they'll acquire the keys to unlock them years down the line.
Precisely. A long-term cryptographic investment, if you will.
What does this immediate activity mean for our perception of the quantum threat timeline?
It completely reframes it. The SNDL attack instantly transforms the quantum threat from a distant academic, future problem into an urgent strategic imperative that demands action right now.
Wow.
It establishes a direct, undeniable causal link between the security lifespan of your data, how long it needs to be secret, and the immediate urgency of cryptographic migration.
Because the data is already being collected.
Correct. The critical time to act is not on some future Q day, but in the present to protect that crucial data from being compromised years from now. This means if you have data that needs to stay confidential for more than a few years, it's potentially vulnerable today.
That really drives home the immediate nature of the problem. Can you give us some concrete examples of data that inherently has this kind of long security shelf life? What specific types of information are most vulnerable to this store now, decrypt later attack?
Well, consider long-term financial records, for example. These often need to retain confidentiality for decades, sometimes, up to a century, depending on the context.
Right.
The financial industry, in particular, is identified as being at the heaviest losses risk due to its deep reliance on cryptographic login protocols, TLS for communications, VPNs for secure access, and systems that guarantee transaction immutability.
Then there's personal medical data.
Absolutely. Personal medical data, which by regulatory and ethical standards frequently carries lifelong privacy requirements.
Your health records need to stay private basically forever.
Pretty much. Intellectual property such as trade secrets, proprietary algorithms, or blueprints for new products also needs to remain secure for many years, sometimes for the entire lifespan of a patent or even longer.
Makes sense.
And of course, highly classified governmental communications. These can necessitate security for multiple decades, potentially half a century or more, due to their profound national security implications.
So for you, the listener, whether you're dealing with personal health information, long-term financial plans, intellectual property for your business, or even just old emails you want to keep private, the question isn't if quantum computers arrive, but when.
Exactly.
And if that when is before you've protected that data, it's vulnerable today to this type of attack. It could be sitting in archives waiting for a quantum computer to unlock it.
Exactly. This profound and immediate risk is precisely what prompted Dr. Mosca to develop his powerful framework, a way to quantify and address these abstract warnings with actionable risk assessment.
Right. A call to move beyond discussion to strategic planning.
Okay,
Let's get into that framework. Section 2. Decoding Mosca's theorem.
let's do it.
So here's where it truly gets compelling. This immediate risk, this very real store now, decrypt later problem, is exactly what Dr. Mosca synthesized into his now famous theorem. It's a powerful conceptual tool often referred to as Mosca's inequality or the X plus YZ risk model that masterfully translates the abstract quantum threat into something tangible and actionable. Can you tell us more about its genesis and its core purpose?
Sure. Dr. Mosca, a distinguished expert from the University of Waterloo, initially put forth this framework between roughly 2013 and 2015, articulating it most prominently in his 2015 paper. Its fundamental design was to provide organizations with a method to concretely assess their readiness for the quantum era, essentially, a pragmatic blueprint for post-quantum cybersecurity.
So not just theory.
Not just theory. While colloquially termed a theorem, it functions more as a potent heuristic for risk management. Its primary aim isn't to deliver an immutable mathematical proof, but rather to compel a structured, proactive approach to cybersecurity, pushing organizations far beyond mere passive awareness or speculative discussion.
And it clearly had a substantial impact, didn't it? This wasn't just an academic exercise confined to university halls.
Absolutely. This framework directly influenced high-level policy. It notably served as a key justification for the U.S. National Institute of Standards and Technology, or NIST, to launch its comprehensive post-quantum cryptography standardization process back in 2016.
Okay, that's significant.
Very. The central assertion of Mosca's inequality is quite stark. An organization has already run out of time to protect its data if the sum of X, the data security shelf life, and Y, the migration time, exceeds Z, the estimated time until a cryptographically relevant quantum computer arrives.
X plus YZ means you're already behind.
We're already exposed. This effectively defines the quantum threat horizon and powerfully reinforces the idea that procrastination isn't just inefficient. It directly leads to an unacceptable level of data exposure.
So this framework provides a practical, quantifiable way for you to evaluate your own or your organization's specific position in this critical race against time. It's a profound call to action. Let's truly break down each of these variables, starting with X. What exactly does X represent within Mosca's theorem?
Okay, X. X represents the security shelf life of the information assets. In essence, the total number of years a particular data set must remain confidential, private, and protected from any form of manipulation.
How long does it need to say secret?
Basically, yes. And this value is intensely personal and variable for each organization. It's dictated by the specific type of data, the organization's internal policies for data retention, and, critically, external regulatory and compliance requirements that often have legal teeth.
So X isn't some universal fixed number then. Some data might only need protection for moments, while other information requires security for many, many decades.
Precisely. The significant variability of X is why a one-size-fits-all approach to post-quantum migration is inherently flawed and ultimately ineffective.
Right.
For instance, real-time communications, such as the encryption used during an online banking session, might genuinely have an X value close to 0 years, as the immediate value of that data diminishes almost instantly after use.
Makes sense. Once the session is over, it's less critical.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Conversely, highly classified government intelligence or long-term legal contracts could realistically demand an X value of 100 years or even more, particularly when considering their multi-generational implications.
Wow, 100 years. That's a long time to keep a secret. Are there specific regulatory examples that really underscore why certain data sets command such high X values?
Or certainly. Take financial institutions, for example. Regulations like the General Data Protection Regulation, or GDPR in Europe, or similar data protection laws globally, mandate that customer data security must last for the entire longevity of the customer relationship, and often far beyond.
So years after I close my account, potentially.
Potentially, yes, which can easily stretch for a decade or more. In the healthcare sector, the Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act, or IPAA, in the U.S., along with equivalent international laws, dictates lifelong patient data privacy for medical records and clinical trial results.
Again, basically forever.
These are not mere suggestions. They are legally binding requirements that drive exceptionally high X values, rendering these sectors acutely vulnerable to those store now, decrypt later attacks we discussed.
So this variable X really forces you to ask a fundamental and often overlooked question. How long does my most sensitive data genuinely need to remain secure?
You have to ask that question.
It absolutely necessitates a thorough cryptographic asset inventory, because without one, you can't even begin to understand your organization's critical X value.
Can't start the equation without X.
Right. Once you have a handle on how long your data needs protection, we then turn to the next crucial piece of the puzzle. Why the migration time?
Why? This is the variable that, in our experience, many organizations consistently and profoundly underestimate.
Really? Why is that?
Y represents the total time required to migrate an organization's entire cryptographic infrastructure to a fully quantum-safe environment. It is vastly more involved than merely applying a software update. It is an intrinsically complex, multifaceted process that spans not months, but often many years.
So we're definitely not talking about simply downloading a patch or clicking an update button, are we? What are some of these unseen complexities that make Y such a long and challenging endeavor?
Well, the non-trivial factors are extensive. Firstly, Y must incorporate the time required for new post-quantum cryptography algorithms to be fully developed, rigorously vetted, and formally standardized.
Which NIST is still working on, right? The final standards aren't all set in stone.
Exactly. It's an ongoing process. That takes time. Secondly, organizations face the monumental and often daunting task of identifying every single instance where public key cryptography is used.
Everywhere.
Everywhere. This includes internally developed software, embedded cryptographic modules and hardware, critical third-party applications, and all the intricate dependencies woven throughout their entire supply chain. Our sources emphatically point out that this is significantly harder than it sounds.
I can absolutely imagine. It sounds akin to trying to map every single electrical wire, every pipe, every hidden connection in a massive decades-old building, not just the ones you can immediately see.
It's an excellent analogy. And then there's the critical challenge of ghost incompatibility.
Ghost incompatibility. Sounds spooky.
It can be. This is a profound and often unforeseen hurdle. Okay. Systems can initially appear to be compatible with newly implemented PQC algorithms, but then fail unpredictably due to cryptographic assumptions baked into infrastructure, firmware, or deeply integrated third-party services.
Assumptions made years ago when the system was built.
Precisely. These deeply buried dependencies don't always trigger immediate error messages or crash warnings. Instead, they often lead to silent breakages, subtle data corruption, or intermittent operational outages that are incredibly difficult to detect, isolate, and remediate.
So a mission-critical system might seem to be operating perfectly fine with a new PQC algorithm, but then suddenly it experiences inexplicable failures because an old firmware, perhaps in a critical hardware security module or a custom-built sensor, is expecting a classical key size or a specific outdated cryptographic parameter.
That's exactly the kind of scenario we're talking about.
That's not just a hidden minefield, it's a silent killer.
It really can be. And we must also factor in the often overlooked long lead times for specialized hardware components and the complexities inherent in global supply chain dependencies.
Right, getting new hardware isn't instant.
Especially not at scale. Replacing or upgrading legacy equipment, particularly in highly constrained operational environments like industrial control systems, medical devices, or Internet of Things, IoT deployments, can literally take years.
Okay.
Given the cumulative effect of all these factors, a timeline of 7 to 10 years for a large-scale global cryptographic migration is considered relatively short by industry experts.
7 to 10 years is short. Wow.
Relatively, yes. For organizations with extensive legacy systems or highly regulated environments, that migration period could realistically extend to 15 years or even more. The sheer scale, the historical lack of crypto agility, and often siloed, non-agile cryptographic implementation practices of the past contribute immensely to the length of why.
So for you or your organization, understanding why means recognizing that this isn't just another IT project. It's a fundamental overhaul that will touch and transform nearly every digital aspect of your operations, and it's far more involved and time-consuming than it initially appears.
Absolutely. Don't underestimate why.
Now, we've thoroughly discussed X and Y, which are largely within an organization's sphere of control. But Z, the quantum collapse timeline, stands as the most speculative and arguably the most volatile component of Mosca's theorem, doesn't it?
It absolutely does. Z represents the estimated number of years until a stable, cryptographically relevant quantum computer, or CRQC, becomes widely available.
Meaning one big enough and stable enough to actually break RSA 2048 or similar.
Correct. With the necessary power and reliability to effectively break existing public key cryptography. This is indeed the most uncertain variable, and as a result, expert predictions exhibit a remarkably wide range.
Can you give us a sense of that spectrum of predictions? What are the leading experts and institutions projecting for Z as of, say, September 2025?
Okay, well, we observe a fascinating and sometimes conflicting array of forecasts. Back in April 2015, Dr. Mosca himself, in his seminal work, estimated a 1 in 7 chance of a CRQC by 2026 and a significantly higher 1 in 2 chance by 2031.
So a 50-50 chance by 2031, according to him back then.
Right. More recently, in May 2025, Joe Panettiere noted a general industry consensus pointing to a breakthrough within 5 years, which would mean by 2030. IBM's own reports have consistently projected a timeline by 2030.
Okay, 2030 seems like a common estimate.
It does appear frequently. Phil Venables, in April 2024, offered a somewhat broader range of 2030 to 2040, while introquantum.org estimates a window of 2035-2040. Michael McLaughlin provided a wider 5 to 20-year window.
5 to 20 years is quite a range.
It is. And Dr. Mosca, in an updated assessment around 2025, placed the probability at a 15 to 13 chance of a CRQC by 2030. Some researchers even warn of Q-Day, where quantum attacks become viable, potentially as early as 2027 for smaller key sizes.
2027, that's really soon.
It underscores the urgency.
That truly is an enormous spread of predictions. Why is there such profound unpredictability surrounding Z? It's clearly not just about simply building more qubits, is it?
You're entirely correct. It's far more nuanced than just raw qubit count. The engineering challenges are immense and multifaceted. For a CRQC to effectively break something like RSA 248, it wouldn't just need a massive number of qubits. It would require something like 20 million reasonably good physical qubits.
20 million.
Yes, and a substantial computational time, potentially taking 8 hours or more for a single calculation. This represents a colossal leap from today's most advanced processors, such as IBM's 433-qubit Osprey.
Okay, we're nowhere near 20 million qubits yet.
Not even close. And a major, often underestimated hurdle is quantum error correction. Quantum computers are inherently delicate and prone to errors.
They're fragile.
Very fragile. And a long, complex computation like breaking RSA can easily become corrupted. Achieving the necessary gate fidelity to perform these intricate calculations reliably requires not only fundamental improvements in qubit stability, but also extremely robust error correction schemes, like surface codes.
And those need a lot of extra qubits too, right?
They do. They themselves demand upwards of 1,000 physical qubits to create just one stable, reliable, logical qubit.
Wow. So the overhead is massive.
Enormous.
So even though developments like Google's Sycamore demonstrating quantum supremacy for specific, narrowly defined tasks have certainly accelerated the perceived timeline for Z.
They generate a lot of buzz.
Right. The sheer scale and complexity of building a truly cryptographically relevant quantum computer capable of breaking our widely used public key algorithms remains a monumental engineering feat. This inherent unpredictability of Z paradoxically reinforces the urgency of action, doesn't it?
Absolutely it does, because the precise timeline of a genuine quantum breakthrough capable of breaking current cryptography is fundamentally unknown and could be dramatically accelerated by unforeseen scientific innovations, perhaps improved error rates from companies like IonQ or new qubit architectures. It cannot be treated as a fixed deadline for which to simply wait.
You can't just plan based on Z because Z could change tomorrow.
Precisely. Since you, as an organization or individual, largely cannot control Z, your strategic imperative must shift. Your focus needs to be on aggressively minimizing Y, your migration time, and proactively managing the risk associated with X, your data security shelf life.
Focus on what you can control.
Exactly. This understanding compels immediate action rather than passively waiting for an uncertain tomorrow.
So with this deep understanding of the problem itself and the clarifying framework of Mosca's theorem, what are the actionable solutions? How do we even begin to navigate this incredibly complex post-quantum landscape? Let's get into solutions in Section 3.
Okay. The primary and most promising solution to this looming quantum threat resides in post-quantum cryptography, or PQC algorithms.
PQC. We hear that acronym a lot.
You do. These represent an entirely new suite of cryptographic protocols specifically designed to rely on mathematical problems that are currently believed to be exceedingly difficult for both classical supercomputers and future quantum computers to solve efficiently.
So hard for everyone.
Hard for everyone. This marks a fundamental paradigm shift in cryptographic design,
Right.
moving decisively away from the number theory problems, like integer factorization, which we discussed earlier as the bedrock of RSA and ECC,
Right.
towards entirely new mathematical hardness problems, things like lattices, codes, hashes.
So to be clear for our listeners, PQC isn't about quantum computers doing the encryption or decryption themselves. It's about our existing classical computers running these new algorithms that are specifically designed to be resistant to attack by quantum computers.
That's precisely right. That's a crucial distinction. PQC algorithms are designed to run efficiently on existing classical hardware, making them a practical and hopefully immediately implementable path forward.
And NIST has really been leading the charge on this global effort, right?
That's precisely right. The U.S. National Institute of Standards and Technology, or NIST, has been at the forefront of a multi-year, highly rigorous standardization process since 2016.
It's been going on for a while.
It has. This comprehensive process is meticulously vetting and identifying the most promising PQC candidate algorithms, thereby providing an essential, globally recognized framework for widespread adoption and ensuring interoperability and robust security in the forthcoming post-quantum era.
So they're trying to pick the winners, basically.
They are, through a very public and thorough process involving cryptographers worldwide. This diligent, peer-reviewed approach ensures that as we transition, we are building on the most solid cryptographic foundations available.
So ultimately, PQC is the fundamental way your data can remain secure and private, even when cryptographically relevant quantum computers eventually arrive. But these new algorithms aren't simply drop-in replacements for our current ones, are they? They come with their own set of characteristics and challenges.
Not at all. That's a critical misconception many hold. The NIST standardization process has indeed identified several leading PQC families as finalists. But each family, and even specific algorithms within those families, comes with distinct performance characteristics, varying levels of security assurance, and importantly, different resource requirements.
Okay.
What's absolutely crucial to grasp is that they are not straightforward drop-in replacements due to significantly larger key sizes and noticeable performance overheads. This often creates what we previously referred to as ghost incompatibility issues, deeply impacting migration.
Let's delve into some of these, starting with lattice-based cryptography, which seems to be widely regarded as the most promising family of candidates.
Yes, lattice-based cryptography is indeed considered the most promising due to its excellent balance of performance, perceived security, and relative maturity. It derives its security from the presumed hardness of complex lattice problems, such as the learning with errors, or LWE problem, or the shortest vector problem, or SVP.
Right, mathematical problems based on these lattice structures.
Correct. Within this leading family, NIST has officially selected two key algorithms for standardization. Crystal Kyber for
Mm.
key encapsulation mechanisms, chems, which handle key agreement and exchange.
So setting up the secure channel.
Exactly. And crystals dilithium for digital signatures.
Proving who you are and that the message hasn't changed.
Precisely.
So Kyber is the algorithm chosen for securely establishing the shared secret keys that encrypt our communications. What are its practical characteristics compared to what we use today?
Okay, so Crystal's Kyber is designed to be highly efficient, relatively speaking, yet it necessitates a public key size of 1184 bytes and a ciphertext size of 1088 bytes.
1184 bytes. Okay, how does that compare?
Well, consider this against classical elliptic curve Diffie-Hellman, or ECDH, which typically requires a mere 32 bytes for both its public key and ciphertext.
32 bytes versus over 1,000? That's huge.
It's nearly a 37-fold difference, quite substantial. It can place considerable strain on devices with limited memory or processing power, significantly increase network latency, and present notable challenges for real-time applications where every byte in every millisecond is critically important.
Yeah, sending over 1,000 bytes instead of 32 for every connection setup adds up fast.
It really does. It forces a reevaluation of network protocols and hardware capabilities.
And what about dilithium, the chosen algorithm for digital signatures, which are essential for authenticating identity and proving data integrity?
Quintil's dilithium, also lattice-based, comes with even larger size requirements. Its public key is 1952 bytes, and its signature size is 3309 bytes.
3,000 bytes for a signature. Whoa.
Again, let's compare this to classical elliptic curve digital signature algorithm, or ECDSA, which typically uses compact 32-byte public keys and 64-byte signatures.
64 bytes versus over 3,000. That's an even bigger jump.
It is. These significantly larger sizes create substantial potential challenges for applications that rely on compact tokens, or for systems with deeply nested certificate chains, especially within complex public key infrastructure, or PKI, deployments.
I can see that. If every certificate in a chain has a signature that big.
Exactly. A single dilithium signature could easily exceed 5 kilobytes, making PKI operations considerably more expensive in terms of storage and bandwidth, and dramatically more complex to manage.
Wow, those differences are truly stark when you lay them out side by side. You can immediately see how such a massive increase in key and signature sizes would create significant knock-on effects throughout almost any digital system.
Absolutely, it ripples outwards.
Are there other promising candidates beyond the lattice-based ones that we should be aware of?
Yes, there are other noteworthy candidates that offer different security assurances and performance trade-offs. Hash-based signatures, such as FinCS plus app.
Based on hash functions like SHA-3.
Exactly. Constructed using cryptographic hash functions, which are currently believed to be highly resistant to quantum attacks. They boast a relatively small public key size, which is an advantage, but they come with a significant practical drawback.
Ah, there's always a catch.
Often is. For any given cryptographic key, there's a strict, finite limit on the number of signatures that can be generated. Stateful, essentially.
Okay, so you can only sign things a certain number of times with one key.
Correct. This makes them unsuitable for many general-purpose applications, but potentially ideal for very specific uses like code signing, where you might only sign a few times.
Got it. What else?
Then there are code-based crypto systems, exemplified by the McLeish encryption algorithm. This particular scheme has an impressive long history of resisting cryptanalysis spanning over 40 years.
Wow, 40 years is a long time in crypto.
It offers a very high degree of confidence in its security. However, its primary drawback is its very large key size, often exceeding 1 megabyte.
1 megabyte for a key.
Yes, which can be prohibitively large for many common applications in constrained environments.
Yeah, I can see that. Sending a megabyte key around constantly. Not practical.
Not usually, no.
So these vastly larger key and signature sizes from the PQC algorithms really do create those ghost incompatibility issues we talked about, don't they?
They are a primary driver of them, yes.
They impact everything from the power consumption requirements for mobile devices to the necessary adjustments for database field sizes and the immense challenge of ensuring seamless interoperability with older, entrenched systems that might not be easily updated.
Exactly. This inherent technical reality makes it unequivocally clear that PQC migration is not a simple algorithm swap. It fundamentally demands that you reevaluate and often redesign your entire system architecture, adjust your budget allocations, and significantly adapt your deployment strategies.
It's a major architectural shift.
It is. And this additional layer of complexity, of course, adds substantially to our Y variable, the estimated migration time.
Right, makes Y even longer and harder. Given all these complexities and inherent uncertainties, it sounds like a flexible, adaptable approach is absolutely paramount. This naturally brings us to the crucial concepts of crypto agility and hybrid cryptographic solutions.
Crypto agility is, without exaggeration, absolutely essential for long-term security.
Crypto agility, being able to change your crypto easily.
Essentially, yes. It refers to an organization's inherent ability to seamlessly and routinely adjust, adapt, or even entirely replace its cryptographic systems and protocols in the future as new threats or new algorithms emerge.
So building systems that expect change.
Exactly. This architectural philosophy explicitly acknowledges that the PQC migration is not a one-time, finite event that concludes once new algorithms are deployed. Instead, it signals the beginning of a continuous, adaptive, and proactive security posture that will characterize the digital world for decades to come.
Why is this concept of agility so critically important? Why can't we simply choose the best PQC algorithms available today and then stick with them indefinitely?
Well, the rationale is compelling and multi-layered. First, even with NIST's incredibly rigorous vetting process, there always remains a residual possibility, however small, that some of the new PQC algorithms could eventually succumb to unforeseen cryptanalysis.
They could get broken later, basically.
They could, either from advanced quantum attacks or even novel classical attacks we haven't thought of yet. Agility empowers an organization to switch out a newly identified flawed algorithm without necessitating a complete, costly, and disruptive system overhaul.
Okay, that makes sense. Hedge your bets.
And second, the quantum threat timeline, Z, as we've extensively discussed, remains a moving and highly unpredictable target. Flexibility built into your systems allows you to rapidly adapt to unexpected breakthroughs or sudden shifts in the threat landscape without incurring massive financial costs, prohibitive logistical complexities, or significant operational downtime.
So essentially, we need to design and build digital systems that are inherently prepared for the unexpected and can evolve with the threat. And one of the foundational strategies for achieving this agility in the near term is hybrid cryptography, correct?
Yes, hybrid cryptography is an absolutely crucial and pragmatic strategy, especially during this transition phase.
Hybrid, meaning mixing old and new.
Exactly. It involves combining both a classical, well-understood algorithm, like elliptic curve Diffie-Hellman, with a newly standardized PQC algorithm, such as Kyber, within a single cryptographic protocol.
Okay, how does that work in practice?
For instance, in a typical TLS handshake, securing a web connection, a system could perform both a classical key exchange and a PQC key exchange, and then combine the results mathematically to derive a single, shared session key.
So you get security from both worlds.
Precisely. This dual approach provides a powerful safety net. If the new PQC algorithm were to reveal an unexpected flaw or vulnerability, the classical algorithm still provides security against classical attackers until Q-Day. Conversely, if a powerful quantum adversary were to suddenly emerge, the PQC algorithm offers crucial forward security, protecting the communication, even if the classical component is ultimately broken.
It's an intelligent way to hedge your bets, isn't it? Like having two incredibly strong but different locks on your most important door.
That's a good analogy.
Yeah.
Belt and suspenders.
And this isn't just theoretical. Major tech companies are already actively implementing this hybrid approach.
That's entirely accurate. Major industry players like Meta and Google are not waiting. They are already implementing hybrid cryptography in their production systems as a pragmatic and responsible bridge to the post-quantum era.
They're already doing it.
Yes. This reflects their acknowledgement of the inherent risks associated with a direct, untested cutover to new, as yet unproven algorithms. For your security architecture, embracing an agile mindset means actively building systems that are designed to evolve and adapt continuously, rather than merely undergo a single static transition. It's about resilience as a core design principle.
Build for change, not just for today. Okay, that covers the main solutions. Let's move into the final section, Section 4, the path forward challenges, mitigation, and a proactive roadmap.
All right.
So we've thoroughly outlined the quantum threat, elucidated Mosca's framework, and explored the emerging PQC solutions. But the journey forward isn't without its own significant set of challenges, is it? What are some of the unseen obstacles that organizations will face during this unprecedented cryptographic migration?
You're absolutely right. This PQC migration is vastly more complex than a routine software update or a simple version upgrade. It encompasses not just profound technical implementation challenges, but also considerable logistical, human, and even ethical hurdles that demand careful consideration.
More than just code.
Much more. A powerful historical analogy often cited is the Y2K bug remediation. That moment, leading up to January 1st, 2000, was fraught with fears of widespread system collapse.
I remember the Y2K panic.
We all do. Ultimately, however, very few catastrophic issues occurred. But this absence of widespread failure wasn't due to the problem being overhyped. It was a profound testament to the immense work and foresight that went into meticulously inventorying systems, rigorously questioning suppliers about their readiness, and painstakingly managing dependencies across countless organizations.
So the disaster didn't happen because people did the hard work beforehand.
Exactly. That monumental, coordinated effort is precisely the model we must adopt for PQC migration. Requires that same level of diligence and proactive effort.
That Y2K analogy really hits home. Have you, in your experience, encountered another complex migration that shares similar logistical headaches with this PQC challenge, perhaps one that could offer additional lessons?
It's an excellent question. While Y2K stands as a unique global event, the transition to IPv6 from IPv4, though less dramatic, shares parallels in its long tail of legacy systems and the sheer difficulty of identifying every single embedded IP address in older hardware.
Right, finding every single IP address. That sounds familiar to finding every crypto instance.
Very similar challenge in terms of inventory. That, too, showed us the hidden costs of deeply ingrained technological assumptions. And speaking of hidden assumptions, you mentioned ghosting compatibility earlier. How does that specifically manifest as an unseen obstacle during a large-scale migration? It's a truly critical challenge, and it often catches organizations off guard. Ghosting compatibility refers to those deeply buried cryptographic assumptions that are baked into infrastructure, firmware, or third-party services that are often decades old.
Things nobody remembers putting there.
Or things that seemed like a good idea at the time based on then current crypto. Imagine a critical infrastructure system, perhaps managing a nation's power grid that was installed decades ago. It uses custom crypto libraries embedded deep within its operational firmware.
Oh, okay.
Libraries that were designed with rigid expectations for classical key sizes and specific cryptographic curves.
Okay.
Even if you update the top layer of software with new PQC algorithms, that legacy firmware could silently reject the new, larger PQC keys or parameters.
Silently reject, meaning no error message.
Not necessarily, or not a clear one. This won't necessarily trigger an immediate, obvious error. Instead, it might lead to intermittent communication failures, subtle data corruption, or even a complete unexpected system outage. Diagnosing such a silent killer in a complex, interconnected system would be an operational nightmare.
A nightmare.
Costing millions in lost revenue, risking public safety potentially. This hidden complexity adds significantly and unpredictably to our Y variable, the total migration time. This is especially true for custom cryptographic implementations in low-level hardware, like Trusted Platform Modules, TPMs, or Hardware Security Modules, HSMs.
Those specialized security chips.
Exactly. They often have crypto baked in very deeply.
Beyond these technical and logistical hurdles, what about the human element? What challenges do we face there?
We're facing a significant global skills gap. There is currently a pronounced shortage of professionals specifically trained and experienced in quantum security solutions.
People who actually understand PQC and how to implement it?
Yes. Ranging from cryptographers who design and analyze these things, to network engineers versed in PQC implementation, to software developers who need to integrate it. This poses a major barrier to effective implementation and absolutely necessitates substantial, coordinated investment in education, training, and workforce development across all sectors.
We need more quantum-ready people.
We absolutely do. And then there are potential ethical implications, too.
Ethical? How so?
Well, advanced quantum computing capabilities and even the expertise to implement PQC effectively are likely to be concentrated, at least initially, in more affluent nations and large corporations. This could potentially exacerbate the existing digital divide, leaving under-resourced regions or smaller organizations more vulnerable for longer.
So a quantum divide on top of the digital divide.
It's a real concern. It underscores the need for international collaboration and potentially financial investment to ensure a more equitable transition globally.
So these are the hidden costs and profound challenges you need to anticipate, not just for your organization, but for society at large. Given all these layers of complexity, PQC alone isn't a miraculous silver bullet, is it? We clearly need a more comprehensive, multi-layered defense-in-depth strategy.
Yeah, exactly. PQC is an absolutely crucial cornerstone of our future security architecture, but it is not by itself a complete solution. A holistic, multi-layered, defense-in-depth strategy is imperative to comprehensively address the full spectrum of quantum risks.
Layering the defenses.
Precisely. As we discussed, hybrid cryptography is an incredibly pragmatic near-term solution, allowing organizations to bolt on quantum resistance to their existing systems without necessitating an immediate, complete, and potentially disruptive system overhaul. It buys time and adds resilience.
What about quantum key distribution, or QKD? We occasionally hear about that as a potentially game-changing alternative. Where does it fit into this defense in-depth picture?
QKD is indeed an intriguing and powerful alternative, offering what's often referred to as unconditional security based on the fundamental principles of quantum mechanics for key establishment.
Security based on physics, not just math.
Correct. It leverages quantum physics, things like the no-cloning theorem or entanglement, to detect any attempts at eavesdropping on a communication channel, theoretically ensuring that the key exchange is perfectly secure. If someone tries to listen in, the quantum state is disturbed, and both parties know.
That sounds amazing. Why aren't we just using QKD everywhere then?
Well, it's crucial to understand that QKD is not a complete standalone solution for the entire quantum threat. What's important here is that it only addresses the key distribution problem.
Just getting the secret key from A to B securely.
Exactly. It does not solve the equally critical issues associated with digital signatures, authentication, or protecting data at rest.
Okay, so it doesn't help with proving who sent the message, just setting up the encryption key.
Correct. Furthermore, QKD requires highly specialized, often expensive, and logistically complex hardware and dedicated infrastructure, frequently necessitating things like dark fiber or specialized quantum repeaters for longer transmission distances.
So it's hard and expensive to deploy widely.
Currently, yes. This makes large-scale, widespread deployment challenging and often cost-prohibitive for many use cases. It's a valuable niche technology for specific, high-security point-to-point links, perhaps, but not a universal replacement for PQC across the internet.
So QKD is promising, but has limitations in scope and practical deployment for widespread general use, at least for now. What other strategies should be considered as part of this essential multi-layered defense?
Other critical strategies include actively reducing the overall cryptographic attack surface. That is, minimizing the entry points or vulnerabilities related to how cryptography is used throughout your systems.
Like just using less crypto where you don't strictly need it?
Or using it more judiciously, yes. By identifying and eliminating unnecessary cryptographic dependencies. This involves a thorough audit of all crypto usages, sometimes called a crypto inventory.
Back to that inventory again. It's crucial.
Foundational. Additionally, implementing robust physical security measures, such as stringent system isolation and even air gapping for the most profoundly sensitive data, provides an indispensable additional layer of protection against all forms of attack, including future quantum ones.
Good old physical security still matters.
Always. Ultimately, a comprehensive multi-layered strategy that intelligently combines PQC, hybrid schemes, QKD where it's technically and economically feasible, and fundamental architectural security changes is undeniably the most resilient approach.
Mix and match the best defenses for the situation.
Exactly. It acknowledges PQC's current state and potential future vulnerabilities and layers additional defenses to protect sensitive data effectively during and long beyond the complex transition period.
For you, this means thinking strategically about layering your defenses, rather than putting all your trust in a single technology or solution. So, knowing all this, how do organizations even begin to tackle this monumental task? What does a phased roadmap for quantum readiness look like in practice?
Okay, the findings of this deep dive and, critically, Mosca's theorem itself unequivocally mandate a proactive, phased approach to achieving quantum readiness. Waiting for the arbitrary arrival of Q-Day is simply an untenable risk.
Can't wait, got it.
The time to begin preparing, as Dr. Mosca himself has consistently stated, is right away.
So, what are these crucial stages? Let's walk through them step by step. Phase 1.
Phase 1. Identification and assessment. This is the foundational and arguably most critical step. Organizations must conduct a comprehensive, organization-wide inventory of all cryptographic assets and their intricate dependencies.
Everything. Software, hardware, third parties.
Everything. This includes every instance of public key cryptography used in software applications, embedded in hardware, and utilized by third-party services. The assessment should meticulously prioritize datasets with the longest security shelf life, what we've called our high X values.
The stuff that needs protecting for decades.
Exactly. And identify systems with known current or potential cryptographic vulnerabilities. This is the stage where you concretely quantify your specific risk by calculating the likelihood that X plus YZ for each of your critical assets.
Applying the theorem. Yeah.
Applying the theorem.
Yeah.
This isn't just about listing assets. It's about understanding their cryptographic DNA and their risk profile.
That makes perfect sense. You genuinely can't protect what you don't know you have or how long it needs protecting. What comes next once that exhaustive inventory and assessment are complete? Phase 2.
Phase 2. Prioritization and pilot programs. Based directly on that detailed risk assessment, organizations should then prioritize their most critical and vulnerable systems for early migration. This phase involves launching targeted pilot programs, ideally employing a hybrid cryptographic approach.
Testing the waters with hybrid first.
Yes, these pilots are absolutely essential for rigorously testing the performance, compatibility, and overheads of new PQC algorithms within your organization's specific operational environment. Crucially, they are designed to proactively identify those unforeseen ghost incompatibilities and other hidden dependencies we discussed.
Finding the gotchas before you go big.
Exactly, allowing you to address them in a controlled setting. It's also a vital time to engage deeply with regulators and industry peers, especially in sectors that rely heavily on shared standards, to ensure a synchronized and coordinated transition, avoiding isolated, vulnerable implementations.
Work together, basically.
Collaboration is key.
So learning from those pilot programs and refining the approach before a full-scale rollout is key. And then the actual broad migration begins, phase 3.
Precisely. Phase 3, phased migration and implementation. Once the pilot programs have been successfully completed and the associated challenges have been thoroughly addressed and mitigated, a staged rollout of quantum-safe schemes can commence across the entire organizational infrastructure.
Staged rollout, not all at once.
Definitely staged. This migration must rigorously prioritize assets with the highest risk profile, those where our equation, X plus YZ, clearly indicates an immediate or near-term problem. This is a complex, often multi-year undertaking that will necessitate significant financial investment, unwavering leadership buy-in from the highest levels.
Gotta get the bosses on board.
Absolutely essential, and often deep international collaboration, particularly for multinational corporations or government entities. It's important to remember that this phase itself is a multi-year marathon, not a sprint.
Okay, marathon, not sprint. Got it. And finally, what's the long-term imperative after the initial migration is deemed complete? What happens then? Phase 4.
Phase 4, the imperative of long-term agility. The completion of the initial PQC migration should never be viewed as a final destination or the end of the journey.
It's not over when it's over.
Exactly. Rather, it must signal the true beginning of a new, enduring security posture focused on continuous adaptation. Organizations must establish a deeply ingrained culture of crypto agility.
Back to agility.
Back to agility, embedding the capability to routinely and seamlessly adjust their cryptographic systems in the face of future threats, unexpected breakthroughs, and new algorithmic discoveries. This proactive approach ensures that the organization remains inherently secure and resilient in an evolving and inherently unpredictable quantum landscape.
Keep adapting.
Continuously. For example, the U.S. National Security Memorandum 10, or NSM 10, already requires federal agencies to inventory their cryptographic systems by 2025, which is a concrete governmental step towards this very phased approach, emphasizing ongoing readiness.
So governments are already mandating step 1.
They are, recognizing the urgency.
This comprehensive roadmap, broken down into these actionable phases, truly provides you with concrete, practical steps to secure your digital assets, starting today and continuing into the future.
Hopefully, yes.
Wow, what an absolutely incredible deep dive into the quantum threat and Dr. Mosca's brilliantly insightful theorem. It's abundantly clear that the intersection of our data's security shelf life, X, and the time it realistically takes to migrate to new systems, balanced against the uncertain arrival of a cryptographically relevant quantum computer, Z. Well, it's a profoundly crucial equation for absolutely everyone to consider.
Indeed. The very existence of the store now Decrypt Later attack unequivocally means this isn't a problem we can defer to the future. It's a present-day reality with long-term consequences.
Right now.
What's particularly fascinating here is how the very uncertainty of Z, the quantum collapse timeline, paradoxically compels us to act faster and with greater urgency on X and Y, rather than waiting for a deadline that will likely only be known in hindsight.
The uncertainty actually forces action. That's interesting.
It really does. It removes the excuse of waiting for a definite date.
And it's not just about PQC as a single solution. We've explored the critical importance of crypto agility, the pragmatic necessity of hybrid solutions, and even the specialized role of QKD for specific scenarios, all contributing to a truly multi-layered, robust defense.
Defense in depth.
The Y2K analogy really resonated with me, powerfully illustrating that immense, coordinated, and proactive work undertaken well in advance can effectively prevent what would otherwise be a catastrophic crisis. But that work, as we've discussed, has to start now.
Precisely. The proactive adoption of post-quantum cryptography, coupled with a well-defined phased roadmap, isn't merely a defensive measure. It represents a profound opportunity to fundamentally redesign and strengthen cybersecurity for greater resilience and future-proofing.
A chance to build better.
Exactly. By addressing these significant risks now, we have the chance to transform a potential crisis into a powerful catalyst for a much more secure and trustworthy digital world.
So, here's a thought for you to ponder as you go about your day. In your own digital life, or perhaps more critically, within your organization, what are your X, Y, and Z values? Roughly even. And based on that personal or organizational assessment, what's one immediate concrete step you can take today to move meaningfully towards quantum readiness? Even just starting that inventory.
It's truly about empowering strategic planning, not just identifying risks. The journey to a quantum-safe future is undoubtedly challenging and complex, but understanding Mosca's theorem provides us with a critical, invaluable map.
A framework for thinking.
Precisely. We strongly encourage you to begin assessing your own vulnerabilities and actively planning your transition. The clock, after all, is already ticking.
Absolutely. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the urgent and fascinating world of quantum cybersecurity. Until next time, stay curious, stay secure, and keep exploring the incredible insights that make us all a little more well-informed.